One more time. Yonatan ben Yocheved, Shevet, successful surgery, and Push Lema, and
the Toch Sharai, all of the rest of
the Toch Sharai Holy Israel. Like we said, protection for our soldiers and strength and healing for the parents of and the families of the soldiers the kadoshim, and for the widows, children. Okay. Anyway, all right. And for the displays.
We're kind of forgotten.
Oh gosh, beyond.
The people who are displaced from their homes, people in the north, the northern border, people in the south.
Families
living in 1.5 rooms with the whole family. 1 room. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. If this wasn't this class, I would make us all dance now. Should we all dance? I feel like Simcha parts get her. Like today's the Rambam's yurt site. Today is the anniversary of my personal anniversary with my husband, and I feel like we should just have Simcha, and we should. When I got married, and Abu Sarah.
And Judy's birthday.
Today's Judy's birthday. Wow. So do you guys mind if we dance? I think we should just, do you guys mind? I think we should have a little bit of Simcha, even if we just hold hands around the table. I feel like we need a little Simcha. A little Simcha. Okay, so on that note, there's a teaching, I think from the Shla Kodesh, who explains that Mashiach was supposed to come in the time of Cheskia and the king. And the angel said to Hashem, how can you bring Mashiach in his merit when he didn't sing in advance? He didn't sing Shira. So the question is, what's the story? He had so many miracles happen to him. He had his healing, and he brought the people back to tshuva, and he was such a holy king, but he did not praise Hashem in advance. He only praised Hashem after all the miracles happened. And there's an idea that in order for us to be zocha, we have to sing in advance for our Yeshua. So today we just sang in advance for our Yeshua, a little wink to Hashem, we know you're coming to reveal yourself in this world, and we, as the holy, righteous women of this generation, we get it. Okay, so, yes, okay. All right, so we're learning about Amalek. We're learning about what is Amalek. We said that Amalek represents the hardest klippa, and we understood that what is klippa? Klippa comes from an aspect of Hashem that is called makiv, that is not internalized in them, that they receive their energy from a place that is not, that it says Hashem throws the energy over his shoulder, so to speak, and it doesn't become internalized, which means that actually, as opposed to things that are holy, where the energy of Hashem is panimi, which is why the Jewish soul is an internalized aspect of Hashem. We're united with Hashem, as opposed to klippa, it's not united with Hashem. It's giving its energy from the outside. And so therefore, klipa actually has no real metzias. I mean, it seems like it has a metzias because down here, metzias means an existence, like identity. It doesn't really, on a spiritual level, it exists, but its existence is dependent on the availability of this makif energy. So the minute the makif energy goes away, the klipa disappears. And that's why we said that there's an idea that it says in, oh, yeah, it says
It never go away.
And what is makif?
Makif is encompassing, which means it doesn't have a vessel that can contain it. Makif means that it's like radio waves, for example. There's radio waves everywhere, but I can't interact with the radio waves according to the vessel that I have. I don't have the consciousness to hear and see the radio waves, even though they're everywhere. It's not internalized in me. I don't have a relationship with it. It's there everywhere, but I don't have a personal relationship with it. It's not internalized. Panimi. It's not panimi. It's like out there. So the idea of makif is it exists everywhere, but it didn't enter. It didn't enter in. So in terms of evil, it didn't enter into the evil. The evil exists because it's kind of sucking off of this makif energy, which we also have. We also have makif energy. We also have panimi energy, but we also have makif energy. And actually explains in the Tanya, this is actually a from Igeris Kodesh, Igeris Tshuva. I say it every day. This one pasuk is part of. There's like a group of 180 women that say one pasuk of Tanya every day, and then they say the whole book every day. So I've been saying this one for a long time, and that really spoke to me. But then I started really like focusing on what it means, and it's what it's explaining is the Jewish people are likened to Hashem's name. We have a yud and a hey and a vav and a hey, and that's part of our dynamic. And we're also connected to Hashem's name. And what happens is the Jewish people, when we do Torah and mitzvos, we are drawing down Hashem's name into this world. That's what we do. That's the whole idea of doing Torah and mitzvos. We're taking this light, this makif light, and we're drawing this makif light, which normally doesn't have an address here. You can't access it because it's so high. But when we do Torah and mitzvos, we take this light and we draw it down and we like fill up the world with this unbelievable energy. We can't see it because we don't have vessels to receive it, but that's what we're doing. So when a Jew does not do Hashem's will, we take this energy and we siphon it off to the other side. And so that's the idea of the hay, the lowest hay, it gets displaced. And this is actually that Yehudis Kaplan just taught me the idea of nida. And nida is nud hay. It's like displacing the hay in the woman's life. Like this is happening on multiple levels of existence at all times. So you have the macro and you have the micro. But so on a micro level, like anida means there's something about that hay that has been displaced, and that's why you have to go through this process of purification to realign the yud-ke vav-ke in yourself, in your marriage, in your home. But as a klal, for klal Yisrael, when the Jewish people use their koah, their thought, their speech, their actions, and they go against Hashem's will, we're taking this incredible energy and we're siphoning it off. And that's where the hay is displaced. And that's why when we do tshuva is tashuv hay. You're turning the hay back into its place. And that's what does it mean to do teshuva? It just means you turn around, you face Hashem again. You say, okay, I was siphoning this off because I was all about me, my ego, what I want, my needs, my desires, whatever. I'm not thinking about Hashem. And now I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. This whole world is about Hashem and this world is Hashem. So I'm going to turn around and reconnect with that energy, and that replaces the hay. So this is the idea of klipa, is the klipa, it takes the sola, the waste product, and it uses it for energy. But it says in Eov, Kate's Sam L'choshek, that there will be an end to darkness, that the ability for the klipa to siphon off this energy will be destroyed. They will no longer have the ability to siphon off this energy. And that is the end of Amalek. Yes.
You said that the end of Amalek is when the end of this Or Makif, when it finishes Or Makif, but it's always existing. No, it's not going to finish Or Makif.
No, but Hashem decides, you're no longer taking off this or makif.
Maybe they don't have access to it, but it doesn't.
No, the or makif, yes, the or makif stays, but he turns off the faucet of their ability to take the energy of it. Okay. And the way that they take energy from it, just a little bit like, going a little bit deeper into this idea, is the whole world is made up of what's called klippas noga. I think we talked about this at the beginning of the class. Klippas noga is the klippa that is covering all things. It's just saying that this looks like a bottle and it looks like has nothing to do with Hashem. But inside the energy of this bottle is the potential godliness. And so if I use this for a holy purpose, the godliness becomes released. But if I don't use it for a holy purpose and I use it for, God forbid, if I was going to pour this water for avodah zarah or something like that, the latent holiness now gets siphoned off.
It becomes a release, also it becomes elevated or just released?
It becomes elevated. It becomes released, which means it's elevated. Like that spark that's inside now becomes elevated. So the idea is that Jewish people every day are interacting with klippas nova at a constant, like the food you eat, their conversations you have, the thoughts you have, every interaction you have in the world at every moment is actually a choice point with klippas nova. Like, how am I going to interact with the world around me? How am I going to interact with my food? How am I going to interact with my children? How am I going to interact with myself? What words am I going to say? What thoughts am I going to have? Are they going to be holy? Are they going to be neutral and parv? If they're neutral and parv, which means I'm just functioning, I need to eat in order to live. I need to communicate my needs in order to live. Those things, the klippa stays neutral. Nothing happens to it. But if I, God forbid, engage in something that's not godly, then that energy gets degraded. And it's the degraded energy of the Jewish people that enables this whole process of klippa being able to take off of the makif. It enables it to keep going. So until this whole system just stops and Hashem is like, die, enough, then we're responsible in a sense. I mean, it's like, I don't want to blame the victim, but we're responsible in a sense for the energy that we don't use properly. Like, it's not that it just is like, we put it in the closet and it has power and it gets used. Okay. So at the end of days, this energy will be completely stopped. Hashem's going to turn off the switch. And now this makif energy is just going to be holy and it's just going to reveal Hashem. And that job will be complete. And so I'm kind of debating here to go if I should continue on in the mimer, which is going to be esoteric.
Do you have the papers from the last 2 weeks?
I think you took them.
They're here somewhere.
Okay. No, it's okay. Or we can talk about well, here, and then we can talk about this a little, and then I want to get into this idea here. Okay.
We want to go to practical.
No.
Yeah, whatever you feel calls it.
No, the thing is, this is extremely practical, but in order for it to become practical, you have to understand the basic premise. And it's Hashem is going to bless me right now that I'm going to be able to explain this concept concisely and just get to the point of it. Okay. So he says here that there's 10 spheros in the realm of holiness. And we said because each emanation of divine illumination unites with the vessels. We all have 10 spheros, and the light within each one unites. So that's why we have, like, when we say spheros ha'omer, we're saying chesed sheba chesed, chesed sheba gevura, because in each one they're all inter-included in the other. And because they are inter-included in the other, you can't pour too much light in it. Because if there's too much light, it just go to the next one and go to the next one and go to the next one. So it's a very dynamic energy that allows it to flow, and therefore it's infinite. It just takes more and more and more and more and more. But with the klippa, there are 11, because the top one is just makif. And from the makif, it's like makif, 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 but it doesn't have any substance to it. And so this is actually why when we say karbanos in the morning, we say karbanos, but I'm saying when they used to do the ketoras offering the Beis Hamikdash, there are 11 spices. because the 11 spices is an antidote to the 11 spheros of evil. And so that's why the Melech HaMaves actually gave the 11 spices to Aaron HaKohen as a way of fighting off the negativity. And that's why they use this to like remove all the plagues in the camp. Because they use the 11 spices remember how I said everything is equal and opposite, zelu umazeh. Yeah. So the opposing force is the 11 thorns of whatever it is. And you know what, Judy, do you know the story about who was it that Alkabetz, was it Alkabetz? He couldn't stay awake in the Arizal. Yeah, there you go. Was the Ramchal? Was it the Ramchal?
I think it was Alshik.
Oh, it was Alshik. It was Alshik. There you go. You're our reincarnation of the Alshik. We need to you need to write a book about the Parsha. We're waiting. That's exactly what it is. It's so interesting. He couldn't stay awake.
She's like, I don't have to feel embarrassed and guilty that I'm falling.
No, I'm serious. It's so obvious.
Not my Torah. Tell your mother.
It's not your Torah.
Tell your mother. She will leave me alone.
I will tell her. Did you get that? That's exactly what it is. It's so interesting. The story is the Alshich wanted to learn from the Arizal. They were contemporaries, and he would fall asleep in every single shiur of the Arizal, and he felt so bad. He's like, "What?" And then the Arizal told him, "It's not your Torah. Like, you go do your Torah. You write the book about all the Midrash, like very interesting things about the Parsha." And it was like a book that was used by many people. It was but it wasn't. It wasn't his Torah. He wasn't supposed to learn from the Arizal.
The Arizal was doing more the Kabbalah, and he was the only one that's supposed to receive it, nobody else. So Alshik was not the person for that. He said, that's not your information.
Other people were supposed to receive it. He had many students.
He had many students. He had many students, and he had whatever. I mean, it says right here there were 60. How many? I don't know. Whatever. I was reading
exclusively
to the
Chaim Vital, specifically
to transmit it. Not that nobody else should learn it.
No. But he taught him more than everybody else
because it was his job to transmit it. Yeah, and he to ward off the Melech HaMaves, the Eight Sahara, No. We say Ketoras when we daven. Yes, because it says the words of our mouth are like the actions of the karbanos. That's why we say karbanos before davening, because that's the ikar of the tefillah, because we're reenacting the actual karbanos themselves. So actually, Charlie Harari, did you guys hear? Like, he started this whole thing at the beginning of the war that everyone should be saying Pitom Ketoras now, and he's publicizing, and he got lots of people, and he's giving like little clothing to the soldiers, and everyone should say Pitom Ketoras, because it's exactly this. It's like warding off the klippa, like this harsh klippa.
Exactly. The Kabbalim go into an what they call masok, and they go around the four corners of the arts, and they say it together with covenant.
Wow, that's so cool.
They always did that years ago in the other war, and they always did it.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. The Jews are the coolest. Like, everybody has like their thing, and but everybody's doing something, and everybody's doing something different, and it's all amazing together. Like, it's so cool. You're just like, wow, that's my people. Like, I'm part of that tribe. Yay. Ashreinu, yeah. Okay, so here I'm just going to do a quick download. This is very high and very deep in it. I'm not sure. Bezrat Hashem. So he says, now he says, moreover, because in the realm of holiness, the divine illumination unites with the vessels, they too possess the light itself. They too possess essential and absolute existence. And this is so even though the light itself does not exist essentially and absolutely. Only he whose existence derives from his very own being and essence is not dependent on any other factor, can be said to possess true essential and absolute existence, whereas light does not derive from its own self, rather it derives from the luminary. So why is he talking about this idea of essential light and exists essentially? Because darkness does not exist essentially. It is given the ability to exist. It doesn't have its own independent existence. Like we said, this is such an important point. That's why when you take light and you go into the darkness doesn't exist. And it's like removes the darkness, because the darkness is just the absence of the light. It doesn't have its own independent existence. And the same thing is true on every level of darkness. It doesn't have the panemius existence of Hashem energizing it. It's just taking off from the makif. Anyway, so this idea, now he's talking about what is essential existence in terms of Hashem. It's okay, you can go to sleep. No, I'm not embarrassing you. I'm honestly, like, I get it. It like came to me in a flash. Okay, so, because I loved you. Okay, anyway, so there's an idea, what is essential existence? It's called Atzmos. Atzmos Ein Sof. It's Hashem. Before anything, you can't say it exists, and you can't say it doesn't exist. You can't say it is, and you can't say it isn't. It doesn't have any definition, and we cannot relate to it in any way, because we are finite. Even our souls are finite on some level. We have definition, we have structure. That's the way we are created as human beings. Everything has a limitation. So if we're limited by our nature, how are we supposed to connect with infinity? Like, there's do not compute. Like, we can't do that. So that's why we don't understand what is God. We really don't understand. So the idea of how Hashem communicates with us, because how do you get from Atzmos, which is the essence of everything, to a finite person sitting in the room? There has to be a way of transmission of that connection. And that is called or, light. So Hashem creates the light as a way of transmitting the essence to the finite. This is, it's like, you can't, like, what does it even mean? I don't know, but this is, but it becomes very practical. Let me explain. So light, the principle of light is it has no metzias of its own. It doesn't have any independent identity. All it does is reflect or transmit the source. So we're calling Atzmos the source, okay? All it does is this light just transmits the source, and that's its only function. But the way that Hashem created the ability for light to transmit the source is that light now can transmit the source. Whereas the source just couldn't do a direct transmission to us. It uses light, which has no metzias at all. It's just bittul. But within the structure of that, it has the ability to transmit. It's like this crazy thing. It doesn't even make any sense. It's like light in physical terms is the most complicated of all things. Like, even physicists today, they really just truly don't understand light. Light travels so fast. It travels like a million miles an hour. And light is sometimes a wave. It's sometimes a particle. Like, light, just, we don't see the light. Like, there's so many layers we don't. Yes.
You're just saying that light on itself doesn't have existence either. Just like darkness doesn't have its own existence, light doesn't have its own existence. Light is just transmission. So therefore, it doesn't have its own existence.
It doesn't have its own existence, but it has absolute existence because it is transmitting the source. Whereas darkness is just receiving from the source, but it doesn't have the essential existence. That's the whole idea of light, is even though it doesn't have its own existence, because it is coming from the source is giving it existence. The light itself, you can't say I'm light. Actually, it's very interesting. When light comes in, it's shining on objects. You're not saying like, oh, there's light and there's the picture. You're just like, there's the picture, because the light it doesn't have its own identity. It just shows you what's there. And this is the idea that light that shows the Atzmos, even though without the light, you wouldn't have the Atzmos. Are you guys kind of understanding me?
What's the again?
Atzmos is Hashem, the source of everything.
What's the difference between life and everything else in existence?
Life?
Light and everything else in existence. None of us are independent.
Nothing
has independent.
Because light enables you to exist. That's the thing. If there was no light, if there was no transmission from the source, we would just all be source. We would lose our independent identities. Light combines with vessels, which is also Hashem. He says the light and the vessel are both essentially godly. They're essentially God. It's like the question that we're faced with right now is, what is existence and how did it come to be? So we have our existence, which is like we exist. Like we're not like it's not like a trick of it. No, we are tangible. We're totally tangible. Yeah. We're not like a figment of imagination. Like this is kind of like the whole trick of reality. It's like we exist and we don't exist at the same time. Depends if we're looking from our perspective, we 100% exist. From Hashem's perspective, we 100% don't exist because we're just this light in vessels that's coming down from this higher source that's just becoming more and more and more dense as it comes down into the world.
So isn't that all matter?
Yes, everything? It's everything. Everything. Okay. So this is the thing that's so, I'm just going to skip ahead to the point here and making it practical. So the practical aspect of this, no, but this is the point. I mean, I also am going for practical. I'm not, the point here is not to learn Kabbalah. Hasidus is not to teach us Kabbalah. Kabbalah is something else. Hasidus is to say, what does this have to do with me? What does it have to do with my avoda? What does it have to do with bringing Mashiach? What does it have to do? It's very practical. But in order to understand why it's practical, we have to understand the framework of how it works. So we have to know that there's the etzem of Hashem, which cannot communicate in any way with reality because it would just become all Hashem. Like there's only Hashem. But the fact that we can consider ourselves as separate is because Hashem created the ability for us to be separate through this idea of light and vessel, which has no identity of its own. It's just a reflection of the Atzmos, but it just keeps getting more and more condensed so that by the time it gets down here, we think we exist independently. So the idea here is we are a yesh. A yesh means I think I exist. I'm me and like I exist. The only other thing that has this property of I exist is Atzmos. Nothing else thinks that it exists. If you think about the angels, if you think about all the souls, and you think about everything in the spiritual world, they all know their source. That is what it means to be in the spiritual world. That's why it's so exciting up there, because you know your source. You know about God. So we don't exist. No, so we exist the way that Hashem exists, which is essentially, which is what it's so amazing, is that we are a reflection of the absolute existence of God. That's what we are. There's the top and there's the bottom, and it's even. So when we think about, do we matter? Who are we? What are we doing? What we actually are we are the reflection of the ultimate yesh, which is how we show up down here in this world. Now, this is the big aha thing. We are a reflection of Hashem in this world, our physicality, because it is completely yeshus. It's like it exists. But let me just, right, but the thing is, exactly, how do you use your yeshus? Are you going to be a yeshus and just be an evil and think everything's about me and live in your Yitzhahara reality and just be in your ego and just be thinking about this world is all about me? Or are you going to use your yeshus as a reflection of the source? And so the more that we understand that we're using our yeshus as a reflection of the source, the more we actually consciously become a reflection of God in this world. It's not just that we're doing Torah and mitzvos as Jews. It's that we essentially reflect the Atzmos of Hashem. It's a really important point. Yes.
In other words, we almost approve of our gender praise.
Exactly.
And through us, as you say, he is made visible or reflected or shown. What are the other points I wanted to so that's very important.
It's very, yeah, go ahead.
And it's part of what defines Israel.
Yes. Yes, that's the, yes, 100%. And this is the thing that I think is so important about this idea. It's not just that we're people doing Torah and mitzvos. It's our essential isness. like who we are, like our bones, our bones are etzem.
I say that about all human beings, not just on Israel. We're all human beings. Like why in this explanation you're giving, how is a Jew?
Well,
another human
Jew is different from another.
Received light also thinks I exist. In what sense?
Because when a Jew is not doing Torah and mitzvot, they are not different than. I mean, they are essentially different, but in a revealed way, they're no different. According to this,
human beings think I exist.
Correct. So that's the thing that makes a Jew different, is because we have Chokhmah, we have this bridge to this greater understanding, and because we have Torah and mitzvos, we can draw it down into the world, and the world becomes a reflection of this atzmos when we think it. It's like the whole idea of light. When is it a particle and when is it a wave? When we see it.
But the yid always has a mentally, even if he's doing the worst thing, he's not really reflecting right. It's that mentally yid that can be woken up.
Correct. Correct. That's what makes a Jew different, because we have this chokhmah. That pintele yid is coming from our chokhmah, which is this. So the point that I'm making is, and you ask a really good point, but that is the point. The point is, when we step into our true role as a reflection of Hashem's essence by doing what Hashem tells us to do and knowing it, it's not just doing it, it's knowing it, it's embodying it. It's not just saying, I'm going to light Shabbos candles. It's saying, when I light Shabbos candles, I am a reflection of Atzmos in this world. I'm actually a reflection of God in the physical reality. It's not just I'm an actor in the show. I become the show. It's like, it's a shift of consciousness. It is a huge shift. That's the idea of Chassidut here. It is trying to shift us out of the thought that we're Jews and we're holy people and we're doing holy things. It's saying we're Jews and we're holy people and we reflect the essence of God in the physical world. It's like a subtle difference, but it's a really important point, because it's saying that all of physicality is here to reflect God, and the way that it becomes a reflection of God is through our avoda. And when we can reflect this avoda with a consciousness of what we're doing, that makes all the difference. Okay, that's all I wanted to say on that point. It's a very deep point.
Can you elaborate for a minute on the way of the particle? It's in two ways to reflect Hashem. We're going to say
yes, it's two ways to reflect Hashem, because you can, if you're watching, it becomes a wave. If you're paying attention, if your consciousness is aligned with the fact that everything is God, it becomes a unity. But if you are thinking about it in terms of separation, it's particles. So this is what I'm saying. It makes a difference. That's why everyone's like, I know you're all nodding off and whatever, but this is a hard concept. But I want to say this is so critical, not just you, Judy. This is so critical because the way that we see ourselves in the picture affects the outcome. It affects the outcome. If I think we're just a bunch of particles doing Hashem's will because I'm doing Torah mitzvos and that's what I'm supposed to do, which is beautiful, and we all need to be doing that. But we take it to the next level, which is the fact that I'm doing that enables me to reflect actual unity in the physical reality. That's changing the nature of reality. And that's what it means, atzmos. That's what it means, that we become a reflection of that unity of Hashem, that oneness. I'm glad one person got it. No, I'm sorry. It's just such a deep concept. It's really hard to understand, but that's what we're doing. The observer effect in physics is saying when you are watching it with a certain consciousness, it changes the outcome. And that's what we're saying here. When we're watching what we're doing as a reflection of the oneness, we create that reality. And so it's a very deep point, and I can't believe I said it in 10 minutes, but like that's, I didn't really explain it. I just kind of like threw it out there, but that's basically what he's saying here. And I feel like, okay.
So you can also do that all sorts of ways without going into all of the metaphysical terms. And
you don't have to be in the metaphysical terms anymore.
L'shem Yichud, before I'm doing, I can convene.
Yeah, but when you say L'shem Yichud, What is l'shem? You have to.
Same thing.
Yeah, you have to know what l'shem yichud is.
Okay.
If you say l'shem yichud, but you don't.
You can every time, be aware that Hashem, I'm doing this for you, Hashem Shemayim, or all the time we can be trying to be speaking to Hashem and being with Him all the time. This is from you, and thank you, and like all of everything.
100%. Yes.
The whole point of Tanya, it's actually to bring it more tangible and explain. Because one thing is just say the words, the other one it's like
be the words,
understand it and be it. Like it brings it in. That's why it's so important what she's saying.
No, it's not that I'm not saying no. Yes, we all say l'shem yichud. No, but what I'm saying is, what is l'shem? What is yichud?
It's the unity of Hashem, us in Hashem, and bringing and the Shekhinah, and it's all about. Everything connecting, we're all like one. The oneness with Hashem and making.
But when 100%, but when you realize your physical body is a reflection of Atzmas Ein Sof, and when
I keep forgetting what Atzmas.
It's Hashem.
Okay, Hashem. Okay.
Hashem, the highest level of Hashem, that not light, not vessels, nothing, just pure essence of Hashem.
So what did you say now? That when we
that's you. So when you say, okay, I'm going to drink a glass of water. And I'm going to do a yichud between Hashem, the essence, and the physical world.
I don't have to think about that. I just do it. I say the bracha b'kavanah, minamana, Hashem, Baruch atah Hashem, Adonai kol hayahu ve'elokim kakif bali yavod. We get without thinking about all this. I'm just doing it.
I understand, but I understand. But what I'm saying is. And that's beautiful, and we should all be doing it. But what I'm just saying is to get to a place where your physical body, you feel in your physical body, it is happening in your physical body. It's not happening.
That's all the lights that's coming down when you're saying the shekel. Whenever you're doing the mitzvah, I'm doing that. I'm speaking of Hashem. I'm saying like then all of that's coming. The shekel's coming in, and it's going back.
Okay, beautiful. Yes, that is what we're doing. I'm just saying so fine. So like you're already there, you're already doing. So, but I'm just saying it gets to the point when you recognize that it's not that you feel in your body. You feel in your body that you have become a channel. You're become a Merkaba. That's the ultimate, because your body then becomes a reflection of Hashem in this world. We become a reflection of Hashem in this world. And there's so many different levels of this. Like I wish, but I'm just saying that this is the work that we do, is to, when you have the kavanah and you really recognize, like it's through the physicality itself that I'm able to make Hashem a home in me, in my water, in my avir, in my thoughts, in my heart, in my whatever. That's the yichud. Like what you're saying is 100%. I was just trying to explain like what's happening metaphysically, but you don't have to know what's happening metaphysically. But I just think, like according to Chassidus, the reason why it's important to know. I mean, the Rambam said we have a mitzvah of yediyah. It's not just that we have why yediyah? Why do we have to know? I have dots. Why do we have to have dots? Because it affects our heart.
No.
And then from right, you have the wisdom, you learned it, and then you analyze it, and then it becomes integrated, and then you feel an emotion, and you're like, I love Hashem so much, I want to go do something. I want to go out of my comfort zone for Hashem, or I want to have these boundaries for Hashem, and then it becomes your physical action. So the more it's integrated in your mind, according to the principles of Kabbalah and Hasidus, the more it becomes a part of your physical reality. That's all. It's not that you're, whatever. I mean, we can always go deeper and further and deeper and further and deeper and further.
The deeper you get, the more connection you get intellectually, which is very important. That's what Chabad is. Chokhmah bin Adat. Without intellect, we cannot channel all that light inside of this body. It's very important to understand.
It's definitely not. What I'm trying to say is, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and I'm amazed by all of you, and all this, but it's not a necessity. It's not a chiyuv to go this way in order to have that.
No, certainly not. We talked about this. When Mashiach comes, there's 7 paths for people to cross to Mashiach. There's 7 paths. No one said everyone has to go through this path. This is a path, and this is a path that is of Hasidus, but no one's saying everyone has to become a Hasid. Like, that's not the point. There's people who are drawn to this, and there's people who are drawn to other things. It's just a path. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's the path. It's a path. There's Rabbi Ginsburg. I mean, it says in the Navi, it says when they crossed the sea, there were 12 paths. And when Mashiach comes, they're going to cross the river, and the river has 7 paths. I don't know what those 7 paths are. Rabbi Ginsburg actually mentioned them at one point, and he said
something beautiful on Shabbat and Rabbi Father when the 12 tribes crossed the sea. Maybe others know this. I never heard of Hashem caused the miracle of the ice crystals were normally they're like opaque but they froze it so they were completely clear, so that all the 12 tribes could see that other tribes were on different paths. They could see them and respect them and accept them.
100%. But it's also, that is beautiful. But that's also, it's very interesting. When Mashiach comes, it says they're going to cross the river in 7 paths. We're not supposed to all be one, you know? It's like the whole, when I very first became. Exactly. So I'm teaching this class. This is the shita that I'm going. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm just explaining what it says, you know? But the point is, the rainbow has many colors. It's not one black rainbow, you know? So like, we should just celebrate everybody's path and learn from each other's paths. Okay. I mean, Mashiach's not coming to tell everybody you all have to do it one way.
Right.
He's not.
It's clear that the boundaries are there, but they're crystal clear that they're
each other.
Okay. So anyway, okay. So we're just going to stop with that. And I have one more class, and in the last class, I'm just going to explain an idea about Amalek that we didn't get to, because actually we have 5 more minutes. I want to say one more thing out of this mimer. The Frierdiker Rebbe at the end of the mimer, he talks about this idea of that Hashem sets an end to the darkness. Kate Sam L'choshek. An end, Kate puts it Kate on the darkness. And he says here that in terms of man's spiritual service, Hashem has set a limit to darkness, can be understood in the following way. And he says the Hebrew word for darkness, which is choshech, is spelled ches, shin, chaf. And this is an acronym for the words meaning donkey, ox, and dog. Wow. Chamor, shor, and kelev. So darkness, we all have inside of ourselves chamor, a shor, and a kelev. A dog. Oh, wow. And he says, and he explains what these are. And he says donkey recalls the observation of the sages that a donkey is cold even in the hottest days of Tammuz. Tammuz is the hottest month, but a donkey, he's not affected by it. And he says, in terms of our avoda, it says, Havaya and Elohim are a sun and a shield. Havaya is one name of Hashem, the name of Shpastos, of spreading out, of light. And Elohim is the contraction, and that Havaya is like a sun. It's like the sun, and Elohim is like the shield around the sun, the nartek, which keeps it from burning other people of the world. He says, however, there are times at which the illumination of the name Havaya radiates overtly, as in the verse, Ani Havaya lo shanisi. And what does that mean? This is when we know that everything is God, and it's such a powerful experience of this idea of oneness. And he says, even at such a time, one's contemplation of godliness is not as fruitful as it should be, then he stays cold like a donkey. So even though you're getting all of this illumination of godliness, and you're like on fire, and people are teaching, and it's like so powerful and amazing, and you're not turned on by it because you're not you, but I'm just saying, like, this is the explanation of what chamor is. It's just that you stay cold. It's like it doesn't get you excited, and you're just like going along doing your avodas Hashem, but you lack that fire.
We animals, can have the shore and the.
There's an aspect of us that is like an animal. We don't become an animal.
Oh.
It's like an animal, just like a donkey is cold even in the heat of the sun. Similarly, we can be like a donkey, and even though we're in the heat of the sun, meaning we are in the heat of the revelation of Hashem, we're still cold.
So you mean
Wow.
To have hitlahavut. That's what she said.
Yes, to have hitlahavut, to be excited and have hitpailos. Yes, yes, to have that experience.
We don't have a donkey,
an ox, a shore, and a keleb. Exactly. And he says, concerning this spiritual state, the prophet laments, yet you, sons of Yaakov, are not consumed with the passion to cleave to God. He's just, all he's saying is, what is choshech? We're talking about the idea of klippa and choshech, but we also, the Jewish people are also consumed by a little bit of darkness. And he's saying these are three different forms of darkness that we find in our avodas Hashem. Coldness. Okay, that's one. That's chamor. He says ox, sure, alludes to people who kick and gore, as if the nature of those who are defiant and insolent, even if they're grazed ever so slightly by those who seek to elevate them, they kick. Meaning you're like, I don't want to hear about it. Like, I don't, you have all your holy whatever, like, leave me alone. I don't want to know. That's the idea of a shore. And actually, this is connected to different levels of klippa, actually. The first one, the chamor, is like the three impure klippos, which cannot be elevated. It's just like, even though there's so much godliness, they're just like, klippa means the ox kicks. The ox.
And what is it? What's the adjective? What's the adjective?
It means it's like, leave me alone. I want what I want. It's connected to klippas noga. It's saying, let me eat my chocolate cake. Leave me alone. I don't have kavana. I don't want to hear about Elohim in my chocolate cake. Like, just let me eat the cake. And this is where the ego becomes very strong. It's not against God, like where the heat of Havaya, the heat of all this knowledge of God, and you're told to it. This is where you're like, I have my ego, and nobody get in the way of my ego, because I'm going to do whatever I want in this world, and no one's going to tell me what to do. That's the ox, the boar. It's like, oh, leave me alone.
What's the
darkest?
Well, no, the darkest is the dog.
The dog? The darkest
is the dog. And he says, okay, I'm going to hurry up here. He says, dog represents shameless insolence. As in, the dogs are fierce-tempered. A dog is connected to the worst klippa because it'll just keep coming back over and over. Like, you feed it and it wants more. You feed it once more. It just... It's a dog is like Amalek. Exactly. This is the klippa of Amalek. So exactly.
What?
Exactly.
And one of the signs of the Mashiach is coming is the dogs the face of the generations, like the face of the dog, like incidents. Whatever.
Right. And this represents the klippa of Amalek. So he's saying there's three klippas within each Jew. You have the klippa of the three impure klippos who are like cold. And, I'm going to do whatever I want because I'm not excited by Judaism, and I'll follow the rules, but only when I feel like it. And then you have the next one, which is the ox is actually the easiest one to overcome because that's just about your ego. And you could convince your ego that maybe it doesn't need to eat chocolate cake, the whole chocolate cake for breakfast. It's different. It's not cold. It didn't turn off. It's just very focused on self. And then the last one, the dog, is the worst because it's like, I don't care. I don't care about anything. And not only do I not care, but it's a chutzpah. It's a chutzpah that I don't care. And that represents Amalek. And he says, and the darkness of klippa includes the attributes which are choshech, the donkey, the ox, and the dog. And it says, however, God has set a limit to darkness, for these very attributes may be utilized in the pursuit of holiness. So he's saying we have these attributes inside of ourselves, and we can also put an end to darkness in ourselves. And the way we put an end to darkness in ourselves is to overcome the chamor, the shore, and the caleb that's inside of us. And he goes on to explain, we don't have time, but
inside of us. Why did we inside of us?
We have an aspect of their personality inside of us. The personality of an ox, the personality.
Kind of the greatest amount of life because it has a hold on us, and we overcome it.
Exactly.
So then we
elevate
the walnuts. It's like the walnut. Walnut has this thick klippa, thick core, and it rejects all life. But inside of the walnut, it's the sweetest nuts. So that it's like.
Right, that's what you're saying. You're saying, so when we overcome the darkness inside of ourselves, and we overcome it, we flip it over to the good aspect of it, then we're elevating Amalek. Inside the Amalek inside of ourselves, we can overcome it ourselves. Yes, we have to destroy it. We have to destroy it. And it turns over to good, like you were saying. It turns over and it becomes good. But this is
a greater kind of good, because it's like the body too, but the body is not body too. The outstanding place.
Exactly. It says the greatest, there's a great advantage to the light that comes from darkness. The light that comes from darkness is a greater light.
That's why we're going to get to see a darkness, but we see light. Right? Exactly. So are we going to get from God? You said that he can't, can't be tikkun, but on the other hand, you see there is some kind of tikkun in Amalek.
The tikkun is when we can destroy the inner Amalek, that enables the the world's Amalek. It could, if we, again, what are the options here? The options are either ba'achishena, which means we bring the Mashiach, the Geula sooner, or be'ito, it just comes at the last possible moment. When would it come ba'achishena? When we destroy the Amalek in ourselves. When we destroy the Amalek in ourselves, then Amalek can transform himself. So that's the possibility. If that doesn't happen, then Hashem will just destroy it at the end. Yes.
So, but how do we get the thing with Haman and as his descendants became Jewish?
Because when the Jewish people are able to have a geula, then the light of their geula can affect Amalek. But if we don't do that,
it happened partially. So because it happened partially, so partially part of Amalek partially became.
I guess because of the great light that came out of Purim, it had the effect on some aspect of Amalek, but it didn't transform Amalek entirely. We're still in the process of transforming Amalek. So we also have to keep going. We also have to keep trying to transform the darkness inside of ourselves.
Why do we have?
And we also have a Mashiach.
Why do we have them?
That's the way Hashem made us. We have
the
to try
and the Caleb.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you? You're going to go into next week into how we can transform the darkness. I think that's.
What I was going to do, I have one more talk. I was going to talk about a mimer that talks about the 4 ways that we